There we go. Okay, so having a little bit of technical difficulties this morning. I think I got it fixed. Anyway, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to our first session in our series on coping with changes in our lives. So today's subject is changing relationships. For those of you that are following along in your Bibles at home, we will be reading the first chapter of Ruth. For a little bit of background information, the little blurb says, when famine struck Israel, Naomi, Elimelech, and their two sons decided to emigrate to Moab. The book of Ruth is a beautiful story that demonstrates God's love and concern for all people, even Israel's enemies. In spite of the hostility and suspicion between the Israelites and Moabites, the young Moabitess Ruth is accepted by the Lord and his people. God even chooses to include Ruth in King David's genealogy. So that's more or less where we are in the biblical narrative. That's actually a good summation of the whole book of Ruth. So to get us started off, we do have optional icebreaker questions. As always, if you would like to leave your responses, please feel free to do so in the comment section down below. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave those in the comment section below as well. Our first icebreaker question is, when you were in high school, what adult were you especially close to other than your parents? An adult that I was especially close to when I was in high school outside of my parents was a gentleman at the church named Mike. He was my Sunday school teacher when I was in kindergarten. He was my sponsor when I was going through confirmation. And he was my Sunday school teacher he and his wife, for that matter, were my Sunday school teachers for 2 out of the 4 years of high school. So it was, He was someone that I was definitely very close to. He was, I would argue, like a second father to me. Very calm individual, very loving individual, always love throwing a frisbee around or, going out to Wendy's. I want to say it was Wendy's. He loved their French fries. I remember when we were doing confirmation, when I was going through confirmation and we were having to do mission projects, things like that, we would go to Wendy's afterwards and he would get all of these fries. He would get 4 or 5 cups of ketchup because he loved the ketchup. And I thought he was a little crazy, but I guess to each their own. But yeah, so he was definitely an adult I was especially close to other than my parents in high school. What about you all? When you were in high school, who was an adult you were especially close to outside of your parents? Let me know in the comments. Our other icebreaker question is, when was the last time you went through a move? Last time Katie and I moved, or I went through a move, would have been when Katie and I moved down here. That would have been mid-May of last year. We loaded up the biggest U-Haul that you can rent. Got a trailer, a full car trailer on the back, loaded my car on the trailer, loaded my car up to the brim with stuff, and loaded Katie's Jeep up. Basically everything from the middle seat back into the trunk. Seats were put down and everything. And that car was filled to the brim, and we drove from the Detroit area down here to Northwest Arkansas. It was total about 18-ish hours of driving, just because we had to go slower because I was driving such a large vehicle and needed that much more space to brake and whatnot. Plus all the curves and hills in this area of Arkansas doesn't really... U-Haul doesn't really handle that very well, unfortunately. So that was a different experience. But yeah, that was the last time we went through a move. What about you all? When's the last time you went through a move? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, we will get to the reading for today. Again, we are reading the book of Ruth, chapter 1. Listen now for the word of our Lord. In the days when the judges ruled, there was a famine in the land, and a man from Bethlehem in Judah, together with his wife and 2 sons, went to live for a while in the country of Moab. The man's name was Elimelech, and his wife's name Naomi, and the names of his 2 sons were Mahlon and Chilion. They were Ephrathites from Bethlehem, Judah, and they went to Moab and lived there. Now Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left with her 2 sons. They married Moabite women, one named Oprah and the other Ruth. After they had lived there about 10 years, both Mahlon and Chilion also died, and Naomi was left without her 2 sons and her husband. When she heard in Moab that the Lord had come to the aid of his people by providing food for them, Naomi and her daughters-in-law prepared to return home from there. With her 2 daughters-in-law, she left the place where she had been living and set out on the road that would take them back to the land of Judah. Then Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back, each of you, to your mother's home. May the Lord show kindness to you as you have shown to your dead and to me. May the Lord grant that each of you will find rest in the home of another husband." Then she kissed them, and they wept aloud and said to her, "We will go back with you to your people." But Naomi said, "Return home, my daughters. Why would you come with me? Am I going to have any more sons who could become your husbands? Return home, my daughters. I am too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I had a husband tonight and then gave birth to sons, would you wait until they grew up? Would you remain unmarried for them? No, my daughters. It is more bitter for me than for you, because the Lord's hand has gone out against me." At this they wept again. Then Oprah kissed her mother-in-law goodbye, but Ruth clung to her. "Look," said Naomi, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. Go back with her." But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if anything but death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her. So the 2 women went on until they came to Bethlehem. When they arrived in Bethlehem, the whole town was stirred because of them, and the women exclaimed, "Can this be Naomi?" "Don't call me Naomi," she told them. "Call me Mara, because the Almighty has made my life very bitter. I went away full, but the Lord has brought me back empty. Why call me Naomi? The Lord has afflicted me. The Almighty has brought up misfortune upon me." So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabitess, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. This is the word of our Lord. Thanks be to God. So, our first question for today is, Naomi's family had moved to Moab. While there, she lost her husband and 2 sons. How might Naomi have been feeling? Like they should have stayed in Israel, cursed by God, bitter that God had let these things happen, sad and lonely, or something else? What do you all think? Let me know in the comments below. As for me, I don't know if she would have felt like they should have stayed in Israel. They went away from Israel because there was a famine. So death would have potentially met the husband, the sons, and Naomi herself if they had stayed there. So I don't know so much about that one. The fact that she told the woman in Israel to call her Mara because the Lord had made her bitter, I would definitely argue that would be a valid response. She is probably very bitter that God had let these things happen. Cursed by God, sad and lonely, these are all valid responses. I could see any of these, but probably bitter. And I'm getting a phone call. Just a second. I'll have to call her back when this is done. Anyway. So, yeah. Probably bitter that God had let these things happen above all else, but sad and lonely would be understandable. Feeling cursed by God, that would be understandable as well. Let me know what you all think in the comments below. Otherwise, we will move on to the second question. Why did Naomi tell her daughters-in-law to return to their homes? She was concerned for their welfare. She was immersed in self-pity. She was gently trying to get rid of them. She was testing them to see if they wanted to go with her. She couldn't bring herself to ask them to leave their people, or something else. Well, something definitely to keep in mind is the patriarchal nature of society at that point in time. Now, I've mentioned this before in other lessons, but at that point in time, women really were not able to make decisions for themselves. They needed to have a man in their lives to give them any kind of, for lack of a better term, stature, and to make decisions for them. So when they're growing up, it's their father. Their father gives them away to a husband, so the husband makes decisions, assuming the sons outlive... She has sons, and the sons outlive the father. The sons then make decisions for the mother after the father has died. So... and that was just normal practice. So Oprah and Ruth's fathers would have given them away. Their husbands would have died. The father-in-law wasn't around to have Naomi produce more sons. And even then, they would have had to wait a number of years for their future husbands to grow up. So it's definitely a very valid argument that she was concerned for their welfare. If they didn't have a husband, if they didn't have weren't accepted back into their father's house, they would be basically, they would remain barren. They wouldn't produce any sons that would give them any direction, that would make decisions for them, and they would essentially become marginalized. So I would argue that would be the strongest reason, but it's possible she may also have been gently trying to get rid of them. It's 2 more mouths to feed, it's 2 more people to worry about. She is just trying to move forward with her life. It's possible Naomi is just trying to gently nudge them away so she doesn't have to worry about them anymore. But let me know what you all think. Why did Naomi tell her daughters-in-law to return home? Let me know in the comments below. Question number 3. Why did Ruth insist on going with Naomi? Because she loved Naomi? Because she felt sorry for Naomi? Because she had become dependent on her mother-in-law? Because she had become committed to Naomi's God? Because Naomi needed her? Or something else? It's definitely possible that she loved Naomi. Naomi and Ruth are family at this point. So, by no means would we assume that, there is this, Naomi is the quote-unquote monster-in-law, as some people refer to mothers-in-law, unfortunately. We get no hint that Naomi is this overbearing, strict mother-in-law figure that would take that unfortunate derogatory title. So, definitely possible that Ruth could love Naomi. But I feel like it's that last one, that Naomi needed Ruth. Naomi has just taken the hardest blow of all. The husband that she married is gone. The sons that she raised are gone. These 3 men that were basically the centerpieces of her life have died. They have gone away. She is definitely feeling very bitter, as we talked about. It's possible that she is just drowning in self-pity. It's possible that out of love, Ruth sticks around knowing that Naomi needs someone in her life. Naomi needs if not necessarily a child to care for, to kind of play that motherly role, at least someone to share that pain with, to not feel so alone. Someone to kind of walk that journey with her, a companion, for lack of a better term. That's what I'm leaning towards, is because she probably felt Naomi needed her more than Naomi was willing to admit. What do you all think? Why do you think Ruth insisted on sticking around? Let me know in the comments. Number 4, at what point can you identify with the events of this story? I have lost a loved one. I've gone through a series of painful losses. My house is empty and I feel like I've lost part of my identity. I've been angry about a loss. I have blamed God for a loss. I have felt unworthy of others' support. I can relate to a couple of these. Definitely, I have blamed God for at least one loss in my life. I was very young. It was the murder of my grandmother, which I've mentioned before. I definitely got angry at God, blamed him for it. The whole, why weren't you there? Why didn't you protect her? Sort of a natural reaction, I would argue, though, especially for a little boy of 10. So definitely I blamed God for that loss. That's one that I can relate to. The other one being feeling unworthy of others' support. This is probably more to do with cultural norms and kind of what society dictates than how my parents necessarily raised me. But I can recall in elementary school, middle school, high school, basically having it drilled into me that the grades you get are the grades you earn. You get what you earn, essentially. You have to work for what you earn. And so feeling like I haven't earned someone's support, I haven't done enough for them to merit them supporting me, that was a very hard mentality to overcome. I have, fortunately, but that's definitely something that I can relate to, is growing up feeling like everything in life has to be earned. You have to work towards someone. You have to earn other people's love. You have to earn their respect. You have to earn their support. Just as much as you have to earn money to pay the bills, you have to you earn the grade on the test, quiz, homework assignment, report card, whatever. You have to work for it. And so often my inner critic said, you haven't worked hard enough for their support. So definitely those two are the ones that I feel I can relate to the most. But what about you all? At what point do you identify with this story? And it can be more than one. I named two. Let me know in the comments below. Number 5. Who has been a Ruth to you? Someone who has gone out of their way to be there for you in a time of need, and what impact has that person had on you? Definitely my wife. We definitely have gone through a couple hardships in our, not necessarily the marriage itself, but during our time being married in other areas of life. So we've definitely, when I've been going through a rough patch for whatever reason, she has been a Ruth for me, kind of gone out of her way to make sure that I am cared for, make sure that my needs are met. And as for the impact that that has had on me, it's been an absolute godsend. It's definitely been a very strong reason for how I have made it through, for why I have made it through those tough patches. What about you all? Who has been a Ruth to you, and what impact has that had on your life? Let me know in the comments below. Our question number 6 is along the same lines, but reverse. For whom have you been a Ruth? A faithful, supportive friend in their time of need. Definitely, first person that comes to mind, definitely Katie. Just as she has supported me in my tough times, I've supported her in her tough times. Also, my best friend, Matt. he went through a couple rough patches while we were in seminary. I stuck by him, tried to support him as best I could. Even to the point of when he was working at a coffee shop on Friday evenings, I would go over on Friday evenings, I would buy him dinner, bring him dinner, because he wouldn't have a chance to eat until 9 or 10 at night. And he'd start working 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so before dinner time. I would buy him dinner, I would, make sure that I got a few drinks to support him at the coffee shop itself, and I would stay after. I would help him clean up so he could get out of there sooner. But, yeah. Definitely he has been someone that I've been a Ruth for. What about you all? For whom have you been a Ruth in their time of need? Let me know in the comments below. Question number 7. Using Naomi's term, in what way is your life full? In what way is it empty? And which word depicts your life now more accurately? I would definitely describe my life as full right now. I have a job that is a calling that is an absolute blessing. I have a wife who is an absolute godsend. I have a very supportive family. I have not a lot of friends, but I have very supportive friends. I have a very close circle of friends, I would argue. So I would say my life is definitely better depicted by full than empty. Those are the reasons that it is full. As for how it is empty, definitely, Katie and I could definitely use more money, especially with both of us wanting to go back to school for various reasons. But that's legitimately the only thing I could think of is, being strained to find funds to return to school and get various certificates / degrees. So that's the only way I can think of it being empty. My life is very full. I'm hard pressed to find anything empty about it. What about you all? How is your life full? How is it empty? And which side of that spectrum is your life better depicted by? Let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, our last question, as always, is how can this group pray for you? If you do have prayer requests, please feel free to leave those in the comment section down below. Shoot me a text, give me a phone call, shoot me an email. If you're within the area and you feel you need to talk to me in person, please feel free to stop by the church. My office hours are Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to noon. So we will continue with the next lesson tomorrow. For those of you that have joined me today, thank you for joining me. For those of you that are watching after the fact, thank you for watching my video. So until tomorrow, stay well, stay safe, and God bless.